Prior to the 19th century, of course, there's gendered and sex distinction in dress, but the more obvious distinctions were around religion and class and profession. A lot of what we now see as feminine things like makeup or heels or wigs were actually worn by men. And that wasn't seen as an invalidation of their masculinity, it was actually a confirmation of a particular kind of masculinity. But then what we see in the beginning of the 19th century is a couple of factors, but fundamental among them is the organization of a lot of women's rights advocates advocating for the right to vote and the right to go to school. And this really challenged the fundamental paradigm of the sex binary at the time, which saw the private sphere, or at least the illusion of the private sphere, as a feminine domestic realm, and the public sphere as a masculine realm. And so this interrupted this idea of where women belonged in society. So there became a campaign to really re-entrench gendered and sex distinction in fashion as a way to reinforce the confinement of women to the quote-unquote domestic realm. So actually the gendering of fashion is deeply related to the political economy of sex and sexism. So the reason that the unisex movement in the 70s didn't really take the purchase because people are okay with dabbling with what they call metrosexuality. But the minute it begins to challenge the idea that there are only two discrete genders and sexes, and that actually we have more in common than dissimilar, that challenges the entire political superstructure of dividing the world into a gender binary. Gender nonconformity is permissible in so much as it can be appropriated to still maintain a distinction between the sexes. But the minute that gendered fashion actually interrupts the logic of dividing two sexes, then it's too much and we have to reel back. So what we notice about contemporary displays of gender nonconformity is people are comfortable with it in the context of a stage, although that's changing with these anti-drag laws, comfortable with it within the context of a fashion campaign, but in all those moments it's seen as episodic and ephemeral, something that you're putting on just as for fun, but that's not who you really are.
Right.
But the minute it becomes about personhood, it becomes a problem or a crisis because it interrupts the very logics of the sex binary.